Inheritance in Java works the same way as children inherit traits from parents. So for example, if we have a parent and let's say they have 3 children, let's say child 1, 2, and 3, then maybe child 1 gets the same eyes as their parent. So let's say the parent has brown eyes, then the child also has brown eyes. The second child might have the same hair color, let's say, as their mother, and maybe the third child can have the same skin complexion as their father. So we can say that the children are inheriting these things from their parents, and in Java it works the same way. However, the children inherit all the methods and attributes of the parent class. Child classes are usually referred to as subclasses, and the parent classes are usually called superclasses. Now, keep in mind that the children classes or the subclasses can have their own methods and attributes as well. So when we have subclasses, they not only have all the methods and attributes from their parents, but they can also have their own methods and attributes. So subclasses are more complex classes than their parent class. So why do we do this? Why do we design our classes this way? The number one reason is less repetition of code, and it also gives us a better structure. Let's try and understand this through an example. We will look at examples of vehicles. Let's say we have a vehicle class. Now, there can be many different types of vehicles, right? There could be cars, boats, planes, trains, bikes, or any other type of vehicle. So you can see that there are many different types of vehicles. They're all different, but they're all vehicles. So there must be some things that are common to each of them. For example, all of them have engines. More or less, all of them have wheels, they have doors, they have seats, and all of those common things are parts that make them vehicles. So if we create separate classes for each of them, then for each of them we have to define a lot of attributes. So if we do not have the vehicle class, and let's say we are creating these classes separately, then what do we need to do? We need to define a lot of attributes. For each of them, we'll have to define the engine attribute. We might have to define the number of seats attributes. Maybe we'll have to define the kind of fuel they use, and so on. Now, this can apply not only to attributes, but also to methods. For example, each of these vehicles have to be driven, right? So we might have a drive method for all of these different vehicles. All of them can accelerate or decelerate. And there can be many other common methods as well. But there are some methods and attributes not common to any of them. For example, a boat can have unique attributes and methods. A train can have its own unique attributes and methods as well, and so can all the other types of vehicles. So for example, a boat can have a rudder, and a method that can be unique to a boat can be docking. A unique attribute for a train could be the number of cars, and a unique method for a train could be changing tracks. We'll do one more example. For example, a plane can have a unique attribute such as wingspan, and it can have a unique method like landing. And you can think of these unique methods and attributes for all different kinds of vehicles. But the point here is that a lot of these common methods and attributes have to be written in code multiple times if we are defining these classes separately. And that is not efficient, and that also is not very good design. And this is where inheritance comes in. So instead of defining all of these attributes and methods for all of these different types of vehicles separately, why not create a parent vehicle class? And in this parent vehicle class, we can define all of these common methods just once. And then instead of having all of these attributes and methods here separately, we can make all of our classes inherit the methods and attributes from the parent vehicle class. And remember, when subclasses inherit from a parent class, they inherit all the methods and attributes of the parent class. So this means that all of these vehicles can use the attributes and the methods of the parent class, but they can also have their own unique attributes and methods as well. So if we have a vehicle class and if we have all these other classes, how do we inherit in Java? We use the keyword extends. So if we have a class vehicle and we define all its attributes and methods here, now if we want to create a plane class, we just say that class plane extends vehicle. And here we define the attributes of a plane and the methods of the plane. And we define all of these here. And so when we create a plane object using the plane class, this object will have all the attributes of vehicles and the plane class. And it will also have all the methods of the vehicle class as well as that of the plane class. In the same way, if you create a boat class, And if boat also extends vehicle, then we can create a boat object using the boat class. And then the boat object will have all the attributes of vehicles and the methods of vehicles, as well as its own attributes and methods. So we're significantly reducing the amount of code that we have to write, because we write these attributes and methods only once, and we do not have to write them again and again for all these different vehicles. So I want to make something clear. Each of them have different engines, right? A boat might have a different engine, train might have a different engine, a car has a different engine, plane has a different engine, and a bike also has a different engine. But still they all have engines, right? Which is why engine is a common attribute. The value of engine can be different, but the attribute itself is common. In the same way, a boat can have different number of seats compared to a train or a car or a plane, but it will have seats. So seats is an attribute. The values might be different. The unique attributes and values of the attributes and the unique methods are the ones that are not present for any other vehicle. So a train or a car or a plane or a bike never docks. Only a boat docks. Only a boat has a rudder. Well, you can say that a plane has a rudder too, but just for this example, imagine that only a boat has a rudder. Or a better example would be that none of the other vehicles have wings. So only a plane will have a wingspan, and only a plane can land. So those are the unique attributes and methods that we define in the plane class. But when we're defining the vehicle class, we think of all the things that are common to all these vehicles. And here's the fun thing. You can extend this even further. For example, there can be many different types of planes. There can be a commercial airline that you use for travel, or you can have a fighter jet. And a fighter jet and commercial plane might have their own attributes. For example, a commercial plane can have an attribute named ticket price, while a fighter jet might have a different attribute named type of ammunition. A fighter jet can also have different methods. For example, it can fire. And then you can keep on extending this even further. For example, there might be different types of fighter jets. And there might be different types of commercial planes. For example, Emirates and US Airways. And so you can keep going downwards and you can keep extending, making sure every time that you are not rewriting code. You can do the same for cars. For example, you can create a Toyota, or you can create a Honda, you can create a Lamborghini, and then you have different models of Toyotas. For example, you have Corollas, and you have different models of the other cars as well. So if we create a fighter jet object using the fighter jet class, then it will inherit all the attributes of all of its parents. So it will inherit the attributes of plane and the methods of plane, but it will also inherit the attributes and methods of the vehicle class. So even though we only created one attribute and one method, because fighter jet inherits from plane and plane inherits from vehicle class, so fighter jet gets everything that its parent has and also everything that its parent's parent has. So essentially we'll have a vehicle class, and then we can have a plane class that extends vehicle, and then we'll create another class, fighter jet, that extends plane. And that is how inheritance works. So in this example, vehicle is the superclass of plane, and plane is the subclass of vehicle. But just like vehicle is the superclass for plane and plane is the subclass for vehicle, plane is the superclass for fighter jet, and fighter jet and commercial airplane are subclasses of plane. And as I mentioned earlier, you can keep on going down this chain and creating more and more classes that inherit from the classes above them in this hierarchy. Let's look at some examples